Welcome back to Living in the Bay Area. If you are thinking about moving to Berkeley in 2025, in this video,
we're gonna break down the neighborhoods that everybody wants to be in and then where they actually end up.
I'm Katie Pratt.
And I'm Heather Alarab.
We're realtors in the Bay Area. We often get Berkeley clients or potential buyers who have their sights set on Berkeley as their next destination.
And let's be real, everyone has that ideal Berkeley neighborhood in mind before they start house hunting. Maybe it's a Craftsman on a tree-lined street in Elmwood or a sunlit Mediterranean up in the Claremont Hills with bay views.
Mediterranean homes, by the way, in general, are more competitive than other home types. Once open houses hit offer due dates, a lot of clients are struck with the realization that the neighborhoods they had in mind don't fit their budget, or they cannot get the home size, layout, square footage that they wanted for the price point they want.
And then they consider neighborhoods that weren't even on their radar, and then they absolutely love it.
Let's start with the dream neighborhoods, the fantasy neighborhoods. Neighborhood number one, the gourmet ghetto, North Berkeley. And this includes Hopkins, Monterey, Market area and the flatter parts of the Albany-Berkeley border. As we've talked about in other videos, the gourmet ghetto has Alice Waters' Chez Panisse restaurant, who led the farm-to-table restaurant movement, to the best of our knowledge. She was one of the first.
Bunch of farmers markets.
A bunch of farmers markets. Well, there's the North Berkeley farmers market, and then of course you're never too far away from the Central Berkeley Saturday farmers market. Also in the gourmet ghetto, there's Kitchen on Fire, which their first location is there, and that's where they do cooking class series. They do them for students in the spring breaks and summers, and then they of course have adult classes and cuisine specific courses, which I love. Folks appreciate the tree-lined streets, the architecture that you see in these North Berkeley neighborhoods, the proximity to Solano Avenue and Solano Avenue shopping district. So when it comes to price point and competition, that's what you want to know when it comes to these neighborhoods, this area of Berkeley. When homes here regularly sell for north of 1.9 million, have multiple offers. Sometimes they don't even make it to the market, the public market, before selling. For example, there was a $1 million bungalow. On the MLS, it says 0 days on market. That's because it was sold as a coming soon, which is another reason it's important to have representation when you start your search and you've been pre-underwritten or pre-qualified, because those opportunities won't be presented to you without access to that information.
Also, don't forget in the gourmet ghetto where there's a whole bunch of shopping over on Shattuck, and there's the cheese board pizza place that's having rotating menu. Grapevine is over there too, which is super amazing, and a plethora of others. And for the homes that do hit the market, the number of offers per property range from 2 to 12 offers.
It's fairly competitive, especially at lower price points. Anything that's priced below $1 million or around $1 million is going to have a lot more interest.
Neighborhood number 2, Thousand Oaks. What's the draw? Breathtaking views, beautiful architecture, peace and quiet. Comparing Thousand Oaks versus Thousand Oaks Heights, Thousand Oaks is more walkable to Solano. You're starting to get into the incline of the hills, but not as severe in comparison to the Thousand Oaks Heights, where it tends to be more on the hilly side.
The other draw, though, of this area generally is you're not in the high fire severity zones, which unfortunately now is a consideration, as is landslide zones and the fault zone. If you're in Thousand Oaks, it's flatter, not too flat, but flatter. You have a high walk score.
Yeah.
You can have, your home can be positioned such that there are views of the bay, and you're not necessarily, always check your natural hazard disclosure report, but you're not necessarily in a high fire severity zone or a landslide fault zone like some of the other Berkeley Hills properties. If you're looking for a home with a high walk score, expect in Thousand Oaks that for a fixer, you will pay well above $1 million.
But also to mention, the median house price in the last 12 months was around 1.8 million.
So still well above that city transfer tax cutoff, where you're paying less than 2.5% or $25 for every $1,000 in purchase price. Keep that in mind. We'll mention that again in all of our videos. So you don't necessarily need a car if you're living in Thousand Oaks, but Thousand Oaks Heights, especially above Arlington Avenue, you're getting into territory where the streets become windier and accessibility to a car is more convenient.
The median price is 1.8, the average is 1.85, and we're gonna see what the highest and lowest sold prices were, why they sold for that much. So lowest Sold under ask. It was $730,000, and that was in October of last year. Let's go on the inside really quickly. New windows, virtual staging you saw there. Refinished the floors. Kitchen looks almost original. It's, again, it's virtual staging. It's a beautiful stained glass window they still have. Original tiles. This one was built in 1953. And that sold for $730,000. It was a bungalow. It had a relatively big lot. The highest sold price one was Yosemite. And this one, right by Stoneface Park, it's under Arlington Avenue, and mid-century, beautiful mid-century home. Over 2,000 square feet. Lots of indoor, outdoor space here. So I was only at 3.225. It had 6 offers.
Neighborhood number 3, Elmwood. It's one of the oldest commercial districts in Berkeley, and it boasts a plethora of independent boutiques and diverse restaurants. Julia Morgan Theater is located over there. If you haven't been to a play there, you should check it out. It's cozy, it's quaint, and crushingly competitive. The average sales price is over $1.7 million, and each property receives anywhere between 1 to 10 offers.
I'd say on average, probably 3 to 4 offers per property. The most competitive properties tend to be priced around $1 million or 1.1, and then go for
1.7.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at the highest price and lowest price properties first, and then we'll look at the number of offers on each. So Russell Street, Fixer, great deal. Oh my gosh, great deal. $780,000. Why did this sell? It was the middle of July. So let that be a hint to you about when to look for deals in Berkeley. With that square footage, you can definitely add a bathroom. A lot small, but only had 1 offer. Oh my gosh. And it was vacant. Let's look at another low price property, $920,000 on Ward Street, far back from the lot. From the street. Adeline can be a little bit busy, but it's a really small house compared to the other one. The other one was a better deal, even though it needed more work, in my humble opinion. This one's ready to go though, so the lot's a little bit bigger than the last one. And let's take a look. 2 offers. This is on the edge of Elmwood, really. They're calling it Berkeley Bowl area. It's a little bit more busy, less quaint. But this, like I said, this one looks a little bit further from the front of the street. The lot looks a lot bigger in the photos than it actually is. Highest priced property in Elmwood, Berkeley Bowl area, was $3 million, and that was Fulton. And it had 8 offers. Flat lot, pretty competitive. Siding, I don't think I've seen that in a minute. Original wood, beautifully kept. Looks like they painted the fireplace, so that's great. More than 1 fireplace. Beautiful built-ins. They did modernize the kitchen in some ways. Looks like they replaced the deck outside. So yeah, some definite upgrades to this one. I wonder originally if it was a bungalow. Probably not, but the lot square footage was fairly large.
The next neighborhood that's highly competitive, or set of neighborhoods, is Claremont Hills. And then I'll include Panoramic Hill in this discussion. What's cool about Claremont, well, there's a Claremont Hotel and Club. The hotel actually divides, it's on both Oakland and Berkeley. I filmed a special on the hotel, actually.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I love that hotel.
The bar, the chef that was there, I think
Yeah.
he's Southern now, but they recently changed up their restaurant bar scene. The club itself, you have tennis, swimming. The gym itself is really nice. The initiation fee is a couple $1,000s, and it's an investment, but it's a really beautiful place to have as a hangout spot if you're hoping to live in Claremont. Claremont is the flatter side when we say Claremont. As things go up in elevation, the square footage of the homes also increase and pricing increases.
Across from the Claremont Hotel is awesome restaurants. One of my favorite bakeries is Fournay. You always see a line out the door and around the corner for people to want to go and pick up sweet goods for the day. You also have Rick and Ann's restaurant, which
Yeah,
has
good brunch.
they have great brunch.
In terms of pricing, though, and competitiveness, we
it's-
talk about these areas. The median sold price in the last 12 months for Claremont Hills was around 2.5 million. And over half of the homes that sold were purchased with cash, which makes sense when you look at the highest price point. It's well above conventional loan limits for a single family home. So of course that purchase price is supplemented, or if not all cash, it's purchased with cash.
Also, if you ever just want to kind of drive around and see what those like higher price points are all about, go to the Uplands and you'll see some beautiful architecture and breathtaking homes.
And some portion, we must mention that the 1991 fires in the hills means that you'll see more
Newer constructions.
They're newer construction. They were reconstructed, and some owners stuck with the original characteristics of those homes, and then others chose to go for a more modern look. So you see a mix of traditional and modern homes.
So you'll notice that almost half sold for cash. There are fewer offers per property than some of the other areas we're looking in. Half were purchased with conventional loans. That's because of the price point and conventional loan limits.
So in the Berkeley Hills, the average sold price was around 1.6 million in the last 12 months. And surprisingly, 23 out of 92 of them sold under 1.3 million. About 4 of those were fixers or quirky properties.
What do we mean by quirky? What do we mean by fixer? Well, one of the quirkiest properties sold for $475,000, and it was a half-completed project. It had really unique architecture. I don't know about the practicality of that architecture, but something to consider, as I mentioned before, is fire severity scores by the Natural Hazard Disclosure Reports, basically what Moody Analytics says about what the insurance premium should be in that area. So when you're constructing something new, they probably want it to be fire hardened, but it was a property that was half finished. And then there's another one that bordered the Thousand Oaks Heights, but it was around the same price, and it was all plywood. It was like framing and plywood, and that was it. Had a bigger lot, but not all usable because it wasn't excavated and flattened or primed for construction. So if you are thinking about the Berkeley Hills, consider that not only will you be paying a slightly higher price point than you would in the flats and some of the neighborhoods that we're about to get into, but you are also probably going to be on the FAIR plan for insurance, and those yearly premiums can be anywhere from 10 to 14 grand. There have been some surprising quotes lately for the Berkeley Hill home insurance, but it just is so property specific. But keep that in mind when you're budgeting for a property in the Berkeley Hills. I think what people appreciate when they have a specific property type in mind for Berkeley is the mid-century style
Or craftsman.
or craftsman.
Yeah.
But I think your probability of finding a mid-century style home with large windows, this aesthetic where there's this continuation of outdoor-indoor space, that Eichler type style, you're more likely to find that in the Berkeley Hills than you would be in some of the flats.
Agreed.
Well, now let's talk about where people actually end up when they have a budget between 1.2 million and 1.6 million, or any budget below 1.6 million. And again, I'm choosing this number of 1.6 because that is the mark, the line that the city council decided to draw when voting on an increase in city transfer tax. So anything under 1.6 million, you'll also be paying only $15 for every $1,000 in city transfer tax when you purchase the home, and that's split between the buyer and the seller. But that's something to keep in mind with your budget. If you are going above 1.6, you'll be spending $25 for every $1,000 in city transfer tax. Let's talk about the neighborhoods where you are most probably going to land if your budget is below 1.6 million, depending on what type of property, how much square footage, how much of a lot size, what type of construction you like.
Condition of the home, the
Condition of the home.
space. Yeah.
And actually, before we get into this discussion, remember that, like in other parts of the Bay Area, but especially in Berkeley, Most of these homes are 100 years plus old. So think about the major repairs that you're going to have to make if you do purchase a property that hasn't been upkept in the last decades.
Such as old roofs, old furnaces.
Knob and tube, which
Yeah.
becomes important for insurance now, home insurance and fire risk. You could have inactive knob and tube in an attic under some insulation.
Yeah.
You could have active knob and tube. So
Single pane windows compared to like the double pane where
and they're gonna have to
insulation.
be custom as well.
Yeah.
Given some of the unique architecture of these Berkeley homes.
Yeah. Outdated sewer laterals, needing to update those, being a little bit more costly up in the hills in comparison to the flats, just because of the routing of the lines.
Yeah, and the distance of the clean out and
Yeah.
the BASO energy reports, which you're not required to make the changes for the BASO energy reports, but you're required to have a BASO energy report.
To recognize where you scale on that energy efficiency level.
Very European.
So unless you have the budget and can stomach a reno, you start expanding your search a little bit more.
Yeah, and this, what we're saying is to keep in mind when you're even looking at these other neighborhoods, because you might buy the ugliest house in the nicest neighborhood and realize that living through a renovation is very different than prepping to be away before you move in and then having the renovation. You have to be realistic with yourself, especially if you're working remotely. And even if you're not working remotely, what it looks like to have construction around you while you're living there. Neighborhood number 1 as an option or an alternative that people don't think about is South Berkeley, Poets Corner. So what's an advantage of this? It's close to Ashby Bart and the flea market on Saturdays, as well as the Ashby Bart Farmers Market on Tuesdays.
The walkability is galore. You are able to get on and off the freeway a lot easier in comparison to being up in the hills. There's a lot more accessibility.
And so when it comes to pricing in these areas, the median price of a sold home in the last 12 months was between 1.1 and 1.3 million. So below that $1.6 million price point we were talking about. When it comes to competitiveness in Central Berkeley, I saw some of the highest price homes sell in May of last year, 2024. So that can give us, maybe that's precedent for this year, how competitive it will be in May. I saw a range of between 2 and 6 offers per property.
In Central Berkeley, and then in May, I remember you going and saying it was anywhere between 12 to 20 per property.
So much more competitive and a lot more buyers to compete with in May.
Trying to get into homes before the summer hits so that they can transition over summer and
The school year, if they have kids who are school age, they're trying to get into the school system and figure out which school they'll be going to.
Yeah.
Option number 2.
Central Berkeley.
Again, easy BART access. You're close to all of the amenities that come from having UC Berkeley downtown. You do have more of that intergenerational living we were talking about because you have that big student population and high density housing.
Also, Berkeley Bowl's over there, another fave that we've talked about in previous videos.
That borders Elmwood, Berkeley Bowl. Sometimes you'll see on the MLS neighborhoods labeled as Berkeley Bowl, and that just means it's Central Berkeley or it's on the Elmwood border.
Yeah. So average sold price in the last 12 months in that area was around 1.5 million.
The median was around almost 1.6. So again, you're right at that 1.6 mark.
When you start going above University Avenue near Ohlone Dog Park, you'll get more homes that are competitive, even fixers, because of the proximity to the university.
Yeah, and I think that strip, as I'll show on the map, for some reason, it's near Greenery, Ohlone Park, and folks want to be closer to those green third places. And yeah, over the last 12 months, there have been quite a few homes that have been completely renovated and are upper outliers for home prices in that area.
Okay, so you got quite a big price range with a median of 1.5, and then the most competitive property was on Spalding. It went for almost $1 million over. This it looks like it's a new build, so going for $700,000 over asking. And it has an ADU. All right, next, 1800 Grant. Almost in North Berkeley here. Again, over $1 million in May. Something was happening in May. When it comes to competition on this one also had 0 offers, but I would assume it probably has closer to 6 offers. Francisco Street is more like North Berkeley, but this makes sense to me given the bed bath count and the square footage. And then Hearst Avenue, again, getting into North Berkeley territory. Brown shingle, again, you have enough square footage to add a second bath. Almost $1 million over, and 7 offers. Our lower price point properties. I believe for this one, I viewed it. It was one of 2 properties that were for sale. So this was part of a tenancy in common purchase. You could have bought both properties, and that would have meant a total of like 1,600 square feet for 1.4, or 1.5 in this case. So the other one's very similar. This was also a TIC. They were side by side. There was only 1 offer on that, so I imagine maybe it was separate offers.
And the last one is none other than West Berkeley, Ocean View. And here you have a lot of 1940s and 1950s ranch style construction. You will find some Spanish style bungalows, a lot more bungalows below 1,000 square feet, 2 bedroom, 1 bath. Some of the ranch style ones might be 1,200 square feet with 3 bedrooms, 1.5, 2 baths. We'll find some multifamily, but in the Ocean View and also 4th Street commercial district, there's a lot of infill development and large modern buildings.
Townhouse developments that are happening down there. I mean, I love the area so much because of like the industrial feel that you have, and it's a hotspot for artists and startups in that area.
And I mean, one con that we'll talk about is in other videos we've talked about freeway noise. This is the closest area to the freeway, the I-80. So in being very close to that, you do get some freeway noise and some noise pollution and air pollution is something I'd look into.
One thing to also consider too is the trains, because you have active trains coming through that area as well, so you will hear that noise pollution of like trains passing by.
Yeah, which I think is pretty soothing, but that's me.
That's your white noise.
Yeah, it's my white noise. You can take some of the access roads to avoid that traffic and get to those oceanside spaces.
Yeah, Cesar Chavez Park is over there, which is a cool on-leash / off-leash area. And Gates by the Bay restaurant, where you can see the entire view of the bay, is located there, and it's a fun place to be. The Berkeley Marina is also there. The Berkeley Marina is there.
Yeah. The yacht club is there.
Okay, so highest priced and lowest priced properties. Camellia Street, it was vacant, it was a fixer, it was less than 1,000 square feet in the Gilman district. And then 10th Street, 1924 construction, less than 1,000 square feet. It's definitely in need of some work. Let's do one more. Channing's a busier street. Wasn't the angle I would have chosen for that first photo, but you can see this isn't a complete fixer, but it needs some work. And 800,000 is the selling price. And it doesn't say the number of offers, but I imagine it had more than one. This is 3 bedroom, 3 bath, went for 1.7. And that had 4 offers. That sold in May of last year. Next highest price point was also on Page, which you're paying a much higher price per square foot on this one than the last one on Page Street. You do have 3 bedrooms and 2 baths.
So here are some real buyer stories about transitioning. If you're at that point in your search, you've been fixated on certain neighborhoods, here's some quotes from Berkeley Parents Network.
I'll go with number 1.
Okay.
We gave up on the hills because we wanted to walk our kid to school. Ended up near San Pablo Park and loved the neighbors.
And so I say the same thing about living in the hills in Oakland. It's like there aren't sidewalks for strollers if you're trying to walk your kid to school. That might not be a practical thing, especially as the roads get more narrow. Another quote from a buyer: thought North Berkeley or bust, but landed in Central Berkeley. It's diverse, vibrant, and we actually know our neighbors. So density is something to think about. And yeah, again, like they might be drawn to an area with a higher walk score, closer to schools, for the same reason the last buyer quote we had about the hills was drawn to a flatter area of Berkeley.
Another one was West Berkeley was not on our radar, but we love the warehouse, conversion energy, and food scene. Plus, we're walking distance to Fieldwork Brewery and Picate. One thing about that area too is it's very close to shopping centers. REI is over there as well. Phil's Coffee is over there. You got the Tokyo Fish Market, which is great for getting sushi grade fish.
So the key takeaway is that compromise often turns into contentment. People are really happy they're still in Berkeley. And yeah, especially in Ocean View and the 4th Street area. The dogs love the dog parks.
Yeah, they do.
What you should really be asking yourself, if you're thinking in the beginning of your home search that you're committed only to one zip code, do you really want to drive from the hills? You have to be aware of the microclimates that exist in those areas. You won't have that in the more flat areas of Berkeley. Are you okay with a fixer and doing a renovation as you go, or paying the mortgage while you complete a renovation before you move in?
Do you want to be closer to your neighbors? Do you want more privacy? Is that something that you want to create that community vibe and be able to host events with the people around you? Or do you prefer seclusion and your own privacy?
Is proximity to BART a must for you? If you're stuck on a particular location, a common request that I get is 2 bathrooms. Absolutely have to have 2 bathrooms. You might want to expand your search to a home that has a certain square footage with the opportunity to add a 2nd bathroom or add a 3rd bedroom if you're looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Do you want a yard, or are you okay with not having as much yard space?
Well, a lot of reasons that buyers want to be in the Berkeley or Albany is for the quality of the public school. That can be a consideration too when looking at neighborhoods, but know that, again, it's a lottery system and you're not guaranteed placement in your neighborhood school. So all in all, it's not about what the best neighborhood is, it's about what neighborhood and home is best for you.
Want help figuring out which Berkeley neighborhood is best for you? Reach out. We're locals. We know the ins and outs of the neighborhoods. We love helping people find the right fit.
We'd be happy to help you figure out which Berkeley neighborhood is right for you at this point in your life. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button below. And if you currently live in Berkeley and want to talk about the pros and cons of your specific neighborhood, hit the comment section below.
Thanks, y'all. Until next time.
She parked